elected to the office of West Allis, West Milwaukee School Board,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and the
Wisconsin,
Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're up next. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Please repeat after me. I, John J. Verbos,
I, John J. Verbos,
having been elected or appointed to the office of West Allis, West Milwaukee School Board.
having been elected or appointed to the office of West Allis, West Milwaukee
Yes,
School Board.
Guess it was elected. I was supposed to count, not appointed, sorry. But have not yet entered the duties thereof.
But have not yet entered the duties thereof.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Next up, we have Joe. Congratulations. Okay, please repeat after me. I, Joe Becker,
I, Joe Becker,
having been elected to the office of West Allis, West Milwaukee School Board,
having been elected to the office of the West Allis, West Milwaukee School Board,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties above.
that swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. It's close enough.
I was trying. Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Devine.
Thank you.
Congratulations to our newly elected and duly elected school board members. Looking forward to working with you as we continue our progress with our district. All right, so now I will call for roll.
All right, Mr. Burns is absent tonight. Ms. Carr?
Here.
Ms. Lee? Here. Mr. Verbos?
Here.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
And Mr. Keller is absent tonight. Ms. Kaiser?
Here.
Ms. Veal?
Here.
President Lee?
Here. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do you have any modifications to the agenda this evening?
There are no modifications.
All right, well, we're going to go right into our presentation for FLW. So for those who are participating, if you want to come on forward. At the table? Yeah, well, that's right. We got the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Before I hand it over to my staff member, and I just want to give a brief kind of update of where we are with our theory of action, kind of at our school, things we look for, things we're looking forward to over the rest of this school year, but also this summer. And as we continue our work at FLW, we are very focused on, and by the way, I'm Jason Fish, principal, sorry about that. And my assistant principal, Jenny Lottie, over here. We are really focused on having our teachers be the best they can. And in order to make that happen, we have to be extremely supportive, which we're all about that. We're all about building a community at FLW for our teachers, because I feel if they feel connected, it will just pass forward to our students and push their learning to the best of their ability. Our theory of action has a lot of points on here. I'm certainly not going to go through all of them. I just want to kind of highlight a couple of the instruction in the top box, instruction and collaboration of ourselves with our teachers. A few years ago, our teachers were pretty isolated. Now, not at all. They plan a lot. They look at different pieces, and they are growing. You know, there's a lot of place to grow. I see them on our PD days going to lunch as teams. I see them in the morning. I see them together, and I just want all of you to know that I feel that that is a a huge piece for growing as we continue to do so. They're looking at assessments more than they ever have before because it is all about every day, how do we know what our kids are learning? What are we checking for? And if they know it, great, how are we pushing? But if they don't, what are we doing differently every day? And that is a strategy that takes practice, that takes time, but that is a push because that's what's important to our students to make sure wherever they're at, we continue to grow with them. Our last thing that we are working for, just our fourth quarter, like we're not done being in classrooms. We are looking for making sure what the teachers are supposed to be teaching, the standards that we help them with. They're also teaching to it, whatever's listed up there, and referring to it so the kids always know what it is that they're supposed to be learning. We're also checking to make sure they have, if they're pulling small groups, to me, that's a big thing that helps them. You know, when it's a full-size class, comparing if I just pull a couple of you, I got your attention a little bit more, and I feel that that's important for our kids. And lastly, too, it's all about that checking for understanding. Where do we know? What do we know? The kids do, did they learn? And if they didn't, what are we doing different? So that is still a push all the way through. And then as we grow over the summer with continuing on, the staff, it's the same staff that I've been working with. Ms. Lahi and I will be entering our 10th year at FLW this summer. And I know that that makes a difference because I see the families again, I see the community, I see our staff has been sticking with us, which is huge. And then seeing what our kids have been doing and our teachers, which I support 100%. So with that, unless there's any questions, I'm going to have Mr. Knipple come up and introduce our lovely students, please. Take front row.
I'm going to talk quickly. That's so I teach 8th grade math at FLW. I'm also being a refresher coach. Refresh is on any. So I've been a member of that for 2 years. I first got involved when I was student teacher at Wilson Elementary. I was co-workers with Lisa Erickson, and she got me involved in this program, got me to be a coach. And when I started at FLW last year, I started my year. It's how I got to know my students. It's a baseball and basketball based math board game, which involves a lot of math and statistical analysis, which led to some really cool opportunities kids are going to talk about in a second. This year's my second year at FLW, and I pitched it to the entire 8th grade team, and they all loved it. So we had over 250 kids participate in Learn Fresh programs this school year. This program was made possible by a bunch of donors. Our biggest donor was ATC. They run the power grid for the state of Wisconsin. They trained all 5 staff members and gave us our classroom board game sets. A registration was $250 per teacher, but they covered all that for us. Game Changers, they're in charge of scoreboards for stadiums. They donated a $300 live kit so we can get into our gym and play basketball with math involved. And the Milwaukee Bucks donated and hosted a Women in STEM night, which we're going to talk about briefly. The programs we've been involved in, we have NBA Math Hoops and the MLB STEM League. These are in our classrooms and focus on math and SEL lessons. We also have had the Bucks Math Hoops Regional Tournament, which was held at Pfizer Forum. Tegan got to attend that. And the MLB Global STEM League Tournament, one in Texas and one in Arizona, and CJ and Josie were able to attend that. So here are our students. We have Tegan Cohen, Josie Tim, and CJ Howard. And they're going to talk a little bit about some things they've done in class. So go ahead, Josie.
Okay, so the signing day is initially when we first start the NBA Math Hoops and when we sign off on all of the agreements in our class, which is like respect and to always be respectful to everyone, no matter what happens in the games. And then we have the yellow books, which is what we do to learn about them. And all of our lessons in here include the shooting practices, all the cards, the teamwork, and the draft, and everything we do is pretty much in these books. Learning about the game, talking about teamwork, and always being respectful to all of our classmates while we play.
So these are the playing cards we use. And all stacked, life stacks in the back. That we use to shoot and hit and stuff. We roll the dice, get the number, and spin on the back on the wheel. So the board game has number slots where you first roll the dice and pick one of the numbers that you have to shoot with. And on the back of your cards, you'll see the circle with the stuff on the back. You put the spinner on it. You spin it, you land the normal order. And if you're shooting from 3, you have to make it in the center.
Okay.
Gray is a few minutes.
Okay.
If you make it, you just add it onto your board and keep going.
We started as a in-class regular season, so they play with a partner. They are partnered up and they work with them the full season. And we do a regular season in the class, and then we do a postseason tournament with a champion from each class.
So I just want to clarify before we go on. So Mr. King.
Is this, so this is, you have a math block,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
And so this is part of your math block?
Yes. We did it as like a Friday incentive.
Oh,
kinda
okay,
end
so
of
it's
the
like
week.
one day?
Yep, end of the week, kind of the last 30 minutes of the week, kind of get to spend, sitting with your class, sitting with your friends, playing a game. Doesn't always feel like math, but it's a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Our student wasn't able to make it who attended the Women in STEM night, but we got to go to the Bucks practice facility. We took 20 of our 8th graders, and I do have a video though from some of them talking about their experience.
Going to the Bucks practice stadium was an experience of a lifetime. We learned about women engineers. We saw the practice stadium where they practiced. It was just an overall really fun experience playing all the games and learning.
When we got there, they took us to the court and we met 2 of the players. Then we played math hoops, and at the end, they gave us merch.
The most memorable experience is being able to meet AJ Green and Stanley Amude and seeing the practice stadium. It was an honor to be able to go.
So that was a really cool experience we did back in February. And now we're going to talk a little bit about MLB. CJ, could you talk about that, please? You don't have to pull it out, just talk about the game.
So MLB is basically like the NBA, but instead of putting your players on a certain point, you just spin, and then the pitcher will roll the dice. The pitching card has certain numbers, where if the pitcher lands on it, they can change your result. So if you spun it and you landed on home run, they could change it to like a double or an out. But it has to be right next to what they landed on. You can't change it from like across the card. And you advance the amount of bases as the batter. And you grab wild cards, which has, in certain situations, you can do certain things. Like a runner on first and you get ground out, you can get a double play. Stuff like that.
So we got to go to the Bucks Regional Math Hoops Tournament 2 years in a row. We took second place both years. We're going to win it 1 year. Tegan got to go this year and got to be a semi-finalist. Tegan, could you talk a little bit about what that experience was like?
I thought it was really fun. I had a great time, and my team went 3-0, and we made it to the semifinals, and then ended up getting out. But it was honestly really cool, and it made math a lot more enjoyable.
We had 15 schools from all over the state, which led up to 30 teams competing. And so it's pretty cool. We had both our teams make the semifinals and have to go against each other to make the finals. But it was awesome. So then we got to go to the MLB Global Tournament. Josie, you want to talk about last summer?
Yeah, so I went in July, last summer, and pretty much I had won this trip and it was completely free. Everything like airplane, hotel, food, like literally everything was free. And when I got there, kind of just chilled that day. Then the next day, I think we played some games, got just used to the fact that being there, and we met our teammates, which was very cool because I got to meet my teammate from, I think it, I forgot where she was from, but yeah, she was a lot farther from Wisconsin than I can say. But it was pretty cool meeting her. She's very nice. I still talk to her today. But yeah, meeting my teammate, then we played the game, and then we got the chance to go to the AT&T Stadium and give a tour of that and pretty much get a bunch of souvenirs from there. And we went to the home run derby and got that experience, and that was very, very fun. Pretty much that was really it, but it was very fun and it definitely was enjoyable.
So, and CJ also got to go to the MLB Global Tournament. This time it was in Arizona. Want to talk about that, CJ? Spring break?
I know, yeah, I get that, but.
April or March?
March. So I went in March. I got flown out to Arizona. The first day, we just kind of met our teammates, got to know everybody there, and then just kind of chilled out, had pizza. Ate, and then, but the second day, we, as a team, we all went out to go to the spring training game again with Texas versus Kansas. Texas versus Kansas. And we got to actually play our first games after choosing our players. And me and my teammate went 0-2, sadly, thinking that we would make it through the second day. But after we went back to our hotel and we all went to the pool. But then the last day we had our final games and we lost, but it was still cool being there.
You want to tell them who you met? Talk about who you met. Talk about that photo.
Oh, I met Tony Clark there, and I got to talk to him about baseball for a little bit. I can't like fully put my. Yeah. And he played for Tigers, Padres, Diamondbacks, and I think that's it.
Awesome. All right. You guys, any questions for that?
I'm just wondering what age range is this for? Because I'm a fourth grade math teacher,
Yeah.
so I'm just
They-
interested.
Learn Fresh's programs, 3rd grade through 12th grade. So, email me and I can get you hooked up.
I'm not sure who this question is for. It might even be for Dr. Robinson. So, we talk a lot about continuity among the schools. So now I'm feeling like, what about West Milwaukee and having them maybe join in this? Would you consider sharing your talent and your expertise?
Yeah.
I would like to see that
Totally
maybe
interested.
next
Awesome.
year. So that might be something that we could look into.
No, I agree. I think it's also an opportunity across the board to share. So I think next year as we plan to have more collaboration between the schools, and I know they've already started that this year. So I think that can easily happen. Anytime we can involve the kids in learning where they don't even know they're learning, it's always a win for us. So this is something I definitely would support.
I don't really have like a question. I just wanted to say that I think that the stuff you guys are doing is really cool. I went to FLW from 2018 to 2021 and I got to do a lot of cool stuff there too. Sometimes didn't even always feel like I was learning because the stuff I was doing was so fun and so just really important. So I think it's cool to see that after all these years, FLW is still doing all that stuff. So.
I guess I have more of a technical question. So obviously this is very engaging for the students. Are we seeing increases in the testing scores as a result? So we've done this for 2 years now. Have we seen any looked at that compared to years past where this hasn't been done? Just something, obviously we're doing this for a reason, right? It's not just to have really cool experiences, but also so we're learning the math, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that this past testing, the past month that we have been testing, there has been more engagement than there has been in a long time, more caring, wanting to do well. And I think that, all of these different opportunities that kids have make a difference. I think, how you said it, they're learning without even knowing it. I think that's a huge piece, even at the middle school level, at any level. So that's, I agree.
Well, that's great. Great. Thank you so much. And I also think that's a good point. Again, when you're talking about expanding this to other schools and other opportunities for more students, being able to point to, we were here, now we're here, we're looking at our scores. It just lends that credibility to the process that we're going through. So the more students that we can expose to this, the better. Absolutely. Any other questions for the board? All right. Well, I want to give you guys a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget your cards.
The cards. You go get the cards real quick. Go grab those.
Great job, CJ. All right. Thank you to the students and staff and parents from FLW for coming tonight to talk about what you're doing there, some of what you're doing there. As always, it's great to hear what's happening in our schools. So with that, I'll move on to our superintendent's report.
So we're going to jump right in tonight on a legislative update. Supreme Court upholds 400-year, $325 per pupil revenue limit increase veto. The state Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the governor's use of his partial veto authority to raise revenue limits by $325 per pupil per year until the year 24-25. The decision has raised concerns about the delay in the state budget process and the potential impact on property taxes. The court rejected the petitioner's argument that the governor's veto increases appropriations and that the rule prohibiting digital deletion does not apply to two digits. The decision will now fall to local school boards to decide if to increase levies to take advantage of the new revenue authority. Assembly and Senate in session for 3 bills impacting school boards. The Senate and Assembly will vote on several bills, including SB 134, which will create an alternative open enrollment application process for children of military who change residencies due to an order, and Senate Bill 126, which would delay the effective date of 2023 Wisconsin Act 126 from July 1st to December 1st of 2027. Act 126, draft in partnership with the Ethics Commission, made several substantive changes to how local government officials and candidates register for election and the duties and privacy rights of local election clerks. The Assembly will vote on AB 166, a bill requiring higher education institutions to report and distribute certain data comparing student costs with outcomes post-graduation to high school students. Both chambers will also approve a resolution to approve this week, April 28th through May 2nd, as a school nutrition professionals appreciation week. It's a lot of words. Sorry about that. I do want to bring up our director, or Shelly, who's doing a presentation tonight. for our next production, Lion Witch and the Wardrobe. So we want to bring our cast members up and our director for formal introductions.
Get out of the way. You guys can talk.
Whew. Still catching my breath after the closing of Les Mis yesterday. I had to share a cool story with all of you. At yesterday's show, a bunch of kids from the McGuanago High School Theater Department came to see Les Mis. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Scott Gurmscheid. I'm the managing director of WAWM Youth Theater. So these McGuanago kids came to the show. I think they came mostly out of curiosity because they had just finished Les Mis about a month ago, I think. And I had called them because I knew somebody there, because I used to direct there years ago, because we needed a set piece for our production and we didn't want to build it because it would take too long. And sure, so a bunch of the kids came to see our production because they wanted to see their wagon in action, I guess. I'm not sure. It was fascinating watching them interact with our cast because a lot of them were talking to their counterpart. Oh, I had this right. Oh, I had that part too. And it was fascinating because they were talking like they were long lost friends. This is what theater is all about. That, and yesterday after the performance, we acknowledged our seniors. Dr. Robinson, you were there. Our seniors who were in more than 6 productions got a theater medal that they can wear at graduation, along with their stoles and all the other stuff that you get for that. And it was a huge sob fest is what it ended up being, but it was really cool. And I did take the opportunity to thank the parents, especially in recent years since we started this program. The parents are becoming a lot more involved, helping out behind the scenes, backstage, everywhere. And just getting excited for their kids and then coming to the shows to support them. And, you know, that's the other big, in the past, that wasn't, for a lot of kids, it wasn't the thing, having their parents come and see the show. I don't know if it was an indifference, maybe it was scheduling, I don't know. But I see a huge change in that coming. And what better way for these kids to not only experience theater, but to experience it with their families together. And watching how proud these parents were, it still chokes me up, how proud they were, because Les Mis was really an extraordinary show. Jordan Pollard did a wonderful job with it. His whole staff, they were wonderful. I had a lot of fun lighting it because I had time for change. It just made my heart full. This theater program is going to be so great for these kids. I'm hoping we can expand it more in the future if we can get another theater or 2. So can you guys work on that? So on May 7th, 30 of our cast members from Les Mis will be performing 2 numbers from the show at the annual high school theater showcase at the Skylight. We've done this before. It really is fun, especially when they walk into that theater, because a lot of these kids have never seen that theater, which is the Cabot Theater is just beautiful. And they're all intimidated by it when they get in there and stuff, but it doesn't take long and they start interacting with the 12 or I forgot how many other high schools are going to be there also performing cuttings from the show. But then they have a chance to interact with each other and share all their story, their horror stories of doing theater and all of that, all the good and the bad. I think it's going to be awesome for our kids to go to this. I'm hoping that we can do more things like this with our theater program. Some of it is, there are field trips. Sometimes they're out of state that I don't think we're ready for that yet, but there's just more expansion that I think needs to happen for this program to succeed even more than it is. I worked up some numbers because we're working on a grant tomorrow. We have a first year, we had a 28% increase in the number of kids auditioning from previous years. And we went up another, I think, Well, we still got 2 more shows, but right now it's at about 10% beyond that. So it is a challenge. I'm literally staying 1 page ahead of these kids in the book. It's just amazing. Here with me today are 3, oh, there they are. You're in lights. 3 cast members from our next intermediate school production of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, being presented at Frank Lloyd Wright, May 15th through 18th. This story based on C.S. Lewis's classic story, which the movie The Narnia Chronicles is based on as well, will feature the talents of 31 intermediate school kids at Frank Lloyd Wright, West Milwaukee, St. John's, Connections Academy, and St. Paul's schools. So we got a nice mix of kids from all over the West Hollis community. Here today, we have 3 of our cast members, and I will let them introduce themselves, what role, what school, even though it's already up there, and maybe mention how many shows you guys have done.
All right.
Okay, so you're up first.
Hi, my name is Eli. I'm in 8th grade at Frank Lloyd Wright Intermediate, and I am playing Tumnus, and this is my 13th show.
Hi, my name is Sharik. I am in 8th grade. I go to FLW, and I'm playing Susan, and this is my 11th show.
My name is Evan. I play Aslan. I'm in 8th grade. I go to Wisconsin Connections Academy, and I think this is like my 8th or 9th show. I don't count.
I've been watching the rehearsals, not many, because I was so busy with Les Mis, but watching the rehearsals. Peggy Link, one of our resident directors, is doing a terrific job with this show. This has always been one of my favorite stories, and I told her, it's like, you've got to make this great. You know, it is a great script. You can't go wrong with it. And I've been watching the kids. It's going to be really cool. We've got some really cool scenery that's going to happen. And I think this is going to be one that they're going to remember long after, you know, they move on to bigger and better things in high school and college or whatever. But I'm really, really proud of this program. I'm really proud of these kids. And now I'm even proud of the parents for stepping up. So thank you. And thanks for your support. I was hoping Mr. Fish was still here. I wanted to thank him. He's been awesome too. Just accommodating us, being in there so much, rehearsing and everything. He's been awesome. And of course, Shelley and the rest of the staff at the rec department. They're incredible. They're an incredible team to work with. And thank you, Shelley, for letting me do what I do. Too many questions. So there is a lot of times there is a method to my madness. When you do theater, you just have to be able to punt a lot. And then of course, the kids. So that's what it's all about. So hopefully some of you can come and see Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. It's going to be a really cool show. So thank you.
If I could, I had a slide dedicated to recognizing the production from yesterday, this past weekend. And if it's okay, I'll just do it right now. I want to say just job well done. I just left blown away by the talent we have in our district. It was really, really just a sad and real moment at the end, knowing that all of those kids are leaving the program because over the last 2 years, witnessing the talent that we have and just really knowing these kids and meeting them and understanding who they are as people and what they're going to be doing in the future. When I stood up, and then when you came up to make the recognition, my wife said, "What's going on?" I said, "I think he's about to recognize these seniors." And that's exactly what you did. And so shout out to you for doing that. That was very appropriate. So I have a bone to pick with you though. I would have loved to have come up and participated in that and you didn't allow me to go up there. And you didn't ask me to go. And you said before, you even started speaking today, I know you were there. Yeah, I was there. Shook your hand twice. I am kidding. I'm kidding with you right now because it's never about me.
You know
It's
what's gonna
never about
happen?
me.
I will write it all up and you're going to do it next year.
No, no, I will do it next year. But what I really would love to do is for you to bring those seniors here to one of our board members before they
Ooh.
graduate, board meetings before they graduate, if possible.
I'll see if I can.
If we
what I
can pull that
arrange.
off, I just really would love to publicly
Oh, of
recognize them
course.
for their work. During their school tenure here in our district. These kids are outstanding, and I knew exactly what you were about to do yesterday because I felt it as well. That some of these kids, from Iris to Cameron, like these kids are just stars. And so to lose this group, and I know when I call names, I have to start calling everybody's name. But just an example of the talent that we're losing in our district. So thank you for that.
But there's great incoming.
No,
talent.
let me tell
but
you
you know,
something.
but it's a cycle.
It is.
It actually is.
When I see these kids, who I know I've seen in several productions, I'm looking at them like, what character was he, and what character was she? Yeah. So I know you see the same faces coming up. So no, the future is bright. But the selfish person in me says, I'm just going to really miss this group that we have.
There's nothing selfish about that at all. I wept openly last night in the lobby, having to say goodbye to them. Because a bunch of them can't do the summer show because they have to work or get ready for college and all of that. And it's like losing a child or a pet or something. I don't know.
I agree.
It's really hard to say goodbye to them because you really do get attached to them. Sure. But thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have a couple of additional recognitions. Our inaugural Suzette Zimmerman Award, and I'm nicknaming it the Z Award. We want to say congratulations to our two winners. There was a tie, and I was not going to attempt to break that tie. We went ahead and just awarded both of these ladies the award. So our first recipients are Lisa Dresky. She's the secretary at Wilson Elementary School. And Sue Baldwin, who is she's an assistant secretary at Irving Elementary. Now I have to tell a funny story real quick, and you may not say it's funny. It's hilarious though. Every time I visit Irving, okay, and everybody knows this, they know not to talk to me until I give Miss Sue a hug. Okay, that has to happen first. Okay, so every time I walk in, somebody just hold on, let me do what I have to do, and then I'll come back to you. So. I played it off during her presentation, though. I sat down next to her and we just talked. And I said, tell me about your job. Tell me about what you do here. So she just started talking and I said, okay. So she was following right along, didn't know what was going on. And then it just came out of nowhere with the surprise. And she's a resident of our district. She lives right around the corner from the school. Lisa's a lifelong resident and graduate of our district. So this award really hits home for our recipients. And so I just want to publicly say thank you to our ladies for their outstanding dedication and service to our district. Our April Educators of the Month. Congratulations to our April Educators of the Month, Lexi Ann Berman, first grade teacher at Irving, and Tyler Hartman. He's an innovation coach from Irving Elementary School. We did them all at one time. And it was just hilarious how, one person is congratulating Miss Sue, and then we go down and we're congratulating her, and went down the hallway, congratulated Tyler. So it was a day of celebration at Irving that day. So outstanding. Nathan Hill champions at the boys indoor state track meet. Over 200 teams competed, held at UW Whitewater on April 5th to close out the indoor season. Christian St. Clair pole vault and Max St. Clair 60-meter hurdles, breaking the indoor state record in 8.01 seconds. So outstanding job, the St. Clair guys. Nathan Hale, congratulations goes out to our Nathan Hale rock climbers for an awesome season. Extra special shout out to our senior climbers, Gabriella Ferragini. I said I was not going to mess it up. I hope I didn't. Camille Stassen and Henry Hubrick. For a qualifier for the state championship held on Saturday, April 12th at Adventure Rock, Milwaukee. And quickly, these are the visits. I won't go through them. Each I just mentioned, Les Mis. And then on April 28th, which was today, I had a meeting with State Representative Karen Kirsch. It was very, very productive. And we have some things that we want to move forward with. I just also want to highlight a visit to Elmbrook, where we talked about joining forces and partnering with that district on their lunch program. So LAUNCH, not lunch. So I had to make sure. I know my Southern accent, it sounds like I'm saying lunch, so I get it. All right, so one more, skip up. I thanked them already. And our voice representative, you've already heard from her tonight with her comment. So Shaylin Smith, she goes by Shay. She's a senior at Docky, dually enrolled between Docky and Central. She's a concert master, violin, and principal viola of Central Orchestra. She's a published author in books and on websites, and she's ranked #1 in her class at Docky. Shay, what do you have for us?
Well, Docky is always doing some interesting things. And I feel like as we get closer to the end of the year, we just kind of pull out all the stops. I think the biggest thing we've got going on right now is we've been doing some attendance challenges these past few months. We're really working to get student attendance individually and as a whole school up as high as it can be. So we started offering incentives for students. Last month, I believe we had a drawing for Beats headphones, and this month we are doing one. I believe 2 students who have 92% attendance or higher will be picked from a drawing, and whoever they pick will be able to get a pair of shoes valued up to $100. So we're coming up with a lot of these different incentives for students to really work on increasing attendance and just trying to get everybody to come to school every single day. We're also getting closer, but not quite there to exhibition night yet. Our exhibition night is on June 10th from 4 to 7 p.m. And that is when all of our students from all the grades showcase 1 or 2 projects that they've done or student-run businesses to the general public. We do that in place of exams. So while Central and Hale are doing their exams, we're showcasing our projects. So we have that coming up, and students are planning and getting ready to do that. And seniors are getting ready to do that for a final time. So it's a bit of like a bittersweet thing for us. We're also, our motto is that we're always innovating and we're iterating. And we've been working on just trying out new things around the school, notably in our crew time. Crew is kind of like advisory for us, but we do it a little differently. We've introduced doing crew clubs. We have academic intervention. We've got all these different things going on to just help students succeed as much as possible in whatever individual ways they need help with. And we're just trying to get fun things happening as well. We're currently in the middle of Hope Week that's hosted by our Dotkey Hope Squad. They are bringing fun events to students every day, and we're doing different spirit days. Today it was tie-dye. Can't remember all the other ones off the top of my head, but at the end of the week, I do believe they're doing a little thing called Camp Dotkey, where they'll have all of the students gathering together in the gym, just doing fun stuff and having team building and just community building, since Dotkey is really built on all of the collaboration between the students. So we're just, having fun and creating cool things and getting ready for the end of the school year.
Thank you, Shay. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 9, our public comments this evening. I didn't have anyone signed up, but if there's anyone in the Zoom chat, there should be a link to sign up for providing public comments. And I'll wait just 15 seconds to see if anyone does sign up. Seeing none, I'll close public comments at this time, and we'll move on to item 10, our board reports this evening, starting with 10.1, review of the board calendar. So today is April 28th. We have our regular Board of Education meeting, and then we have Recreation and Community Service workshop on the athletic strategic plan. Our next regular meeting will be on May 12th at 6 p.m. And we'll have a regular meeting along with a leadership and learning workshop on our 6 through 12 math curriculum adoption. And then our next meeting is on May 19th at 6 p.m. We have a regular Board of Education meeting and then leadership and learning workshop on the GVC and instruction, as well as a financial stability and efficiency workshop on the referendum or workshop number 2. Moving on to 10.2, our board committee reports this evening. So I have 10.2.1, financial stability and efficiency. Ms. Kaiser, are you taking that? Okay.
All right, good evening. So the Finance Committee met tonight. In old business, we discussed the compensation model. There is a committee that is steering that, and meetings have begun. The next one, I believe, is May and then July. State biennial budget, there's been no update, but it's going to become a regular item for us to come back to as needed. Referendum updates, May 19th, we will have a workshop on everything that's been going on. In committed fund balance, there will be an amendment at the end of May to reallocate funds with workshop upcoming regarding that. For the district strategic plan, conversations we're starting in tonight, we started looking at what we have accomplished and what ideas we have coming up will be. Contracts and budget amendments will also be coming, budget amendments will also be coming up at the end of May. Contracts are coming out this week. They'll be due by June 2nd. What's interesting this year on the contracts, it's going to say what your current base pay for 24-25. It'll say how much you're getting for CPI, what you're getting for that 6% increase from the referendum, and what your salary will be for 25-26. So it's all spelled out for staff. They can see what their increase was right there. The Milliman actuarial study is coming up. It'll be about a month-long process. It's every 2 years and required by the state. So it's just an audit of, was it liabilities and such? Yeah. And then transfer service. Finance is working with student services to formalize the TOS process to address a high number of kids that are transferring in with IEPs. And that's my report.
Just want to make sure we're saying it right. It's the cover page, right, that going to have the explanation, right? Not the contract. Is that correct?
Yeah, the cover page that will be associated with the contract will have the breakdown. The contract will just have the updated amount for 25-26. Yep.
All right. Just want to make sure.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Kaiser regarding her report? Or any items to consider for future agendas? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Move on to 10.2.2, Recreation and Community Services. Mr. Becker.
Thank you. The Recreation Committee meeting was brief. We spoke mostly about tonight. It was mostly preparation for the workshop and making sure we had a good handle on how we wanted to talk about it and what we wanted to focus. I think we added one column on that on the sheet that you guys all got on the draft, just a timeline to kind of reiterate that a lot of this is in process. That was the only thing that really changed from what you guys will see tonight. I mean, I don't want to take away too much from that workshop we're about to have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Any questions for Mr. Becker regarding his report? Or any items to consider at future agendas? Just one thing I wanted to kind of bring back up again, the girls flag football. I know you guys have been really focusing on the strategic plan, but now that might be getting close to the finish line. I just wanted to bring it up again because I know there was an email sent by some community members about interest in kind of getting that going. I know that our recreation and community services department is starting it as a rec piece, but looking at it from a school side, I wanted to see where that's going, since we do seem to have some motivated individuals and students who are looking to do it. I know that's one piece we were trying to find out was if we could send a survey out to see how many interested current high school students that we would have who might want to participate in something like that, to give us an idea what we'd be able to go with. And there is community interest outside of our district as well. So other school districts that we'd be able to compete with, it seems. But I'm not the person who has done a lot of the work that was sent, and I know that Shelley was on that as well. So if maybe we could start that process discussing any sort of update for the end of the school year, I think would be fantastic to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Any other items for future agendas? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Now we're at 10.3, board member reports of community events. Any community events board members want to report on? Ms. Kaiser?
I also attended Les Mis. My daughter was in the production. I went 2 nights in a row and I cried even harder the second night. These, like Scott said earlier and Dr. Robertson earlier, these seniors are super special. My daughter came up as a freshman and she immediately had a group of people who just embraced her and took her in and made the whole experience just absolutely amazing. She could be part of that Starlight group, which I'm very excited for her. But But I also just want to say, we are in extremely good hands. Sharik, Eli, and Evan are just immensely talented. They are, you know, it is a cycle. I was a theater kid. Every year you lose a bunch of talent, and then every year you're like, oh, people step up, and other people are given a chance. So, anybody who's nervous about theater, there's a role for everyone. There's stage managers, there's lighting, there's costume, and there's everything you can do. And it was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen performed by kids. So I just want to thank everyone involved in that process.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Other board members want to report on events they attended? Mr. Verbos?
I mean, it's my first time, so I figure I should do something, right? I also went to Les Mis. My younger child was the stage manager for the show, so I watched them struggle through the nightmare of whatever it was, 2 months plus of prep. Long days, every day coming home from school, eating a snack, and then being there from 4 to 8, doing all the setup and prep and everything. It's a great program. It's really fantastic. And it's not just the performers, it's also the crew. So if anyone's looking, everyone's got kids that they want on crew, let me know. I got an in.
Thank you, Mr. Verbos. Anyone else want to report on events they attended? All right, seeing none. I always throw in my 2 cents. I didn't attend the show myself. Both my wife and my daughter did attend. And as someone who was in theater productions in the past, the program that we have here, it builds from within, and that's the benefit. And the thing that Scott said today about parents being more involved, it feeds in that because they see their kids having such a great time, and so they want to ensure that great time continues by filling in where needed. And that will encourage more people to come and let their students participate because of the quality of shows that we're able to put forth. So I know that, yes, the seniors that left, they did a fantastic job, and I'm sure they had a wonderful time. And I'm sure there's lots of people waiting just to come in to be able to have those opportunities to have those roles now that those seniors have moved on to what they're going to do next. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the program grows in the future. All right. I do not have any 10.4, any other updates or information items. So we'll move on to our consent agenda this evening. We have 11.1, approval of minutes from our April 14th regular board meeting, 11.2, our employment summary, 11.3, our supplementary contracts, and 11.4, our financial summary. Does anyone need anything separated out? If not, I would look for a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. It's important to remember to vote. Now we'll move on to our action item this evening. We have 12.1 extended travel, West Dallas Central and Nathan Hale student exchange trip to France. Ms. Barrage.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to invite up Miss Engelkemeyer to join me. She is our extraordinaire French teacher, and we are proposing for our Hale and Central students to be allowed to engage in a fully culturally and linguistically immersive experience in France next year. This would be during spring break for students next year. And the trip, I would just highlight, and then I'll hand it off to Ms. Engelkemeyer, that it allows students to both see like the cultural aspects within Paris through art in particular, but also have the home experience and immersion with families. And as someone who has done has studied Spanish, living with families multiple times, it's the way that you really acquire language in a much faster and more meaningful way. So I'll let her speak more about the trip.
Thank you. That was a great intro because that's exactly why we're moving from the trips where we would travel, which were wonderful and they were very beneficial and wonderful. But now we're really focusing on the French students themselves to really grow their ability to communicate in the language. And as Ms. Burris just said, that's the way to really do it. When you're with that family and you get up and you want breakfast and it's going to be qu'est-ce qu'il y a, je voudrais le déjeuner, le petit déjeuner, s'il vous plaît, or just whatever they need to do. So it's an exciting opportunity. We're traveling with the same company that we've gone to Senegal with, and I've traveled with them previously to France, and they're fabulous. They're just wonderful. And again, it would be the 20th of March to the 6th of April. It's a 10-day trip, and we start off going and staying with the families, and we have will be on Mount Saint Michel, which is an amazing sort of like an old abbey. And the water, the tide comes in and out. So you have to watch how when you cross over. It's really neat. Although they do now have a road out there so you can get out there. So we'll be spending time with their family, going around, going to school, attending school. So they get that real experience of what school is like in France. And then at the end of our trip, we'll be going to Paris. And you can't go to France without going to Paris. So we'll be doing the Louvre, as she mentioned, with a lot of the art. The Louvre, we'll be doing the catacombs, which we've never been able to do on our trips because it's really hard to get in there, but we're getting this set up further enough ahead of time so we can do that. We're going to do a macaron cooking class, which we did on our last trip this past March, which was fabulous. So I'm like, we have to do this. This is really good. The Louvre, as I said, the Jardin des Tuileries, and then Notre Dame, bien sûr, Notre Dame, because it's amazing now that it's cleaned up. It is so cool. And Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre, which we're actually studying now in French 1. So it's neat that they can see it live. That's very cool. And then those students will be coming out to stay with us as well. So it's really neat. It's an actual exchange where those students will come out and be put up with families here and again attend school, and then we'll have some activities to go along with this day as well. So I'm hoping that it will be an amazing experience and that you'll be excited about it as much as we are. So thank you. And any questions?
Questions from the board? So I just want to say, I think this is a really great experience. When I was going to high school, this is something that was done for those interested in going and staying. But it was like for a whole semester or something like that. So this is a shorter period, which I think is nice because it can be a little bit nerve-wracking to be in that situation for a long period of time. So starting out with a week, for spring break, I think is a great opportunity for our students to be able to do. And I guess it'd be great to see it expand into other languages as well as French, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So if there's no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so that was all the action items we had this evening. So I think we're gonna move right into our workshop on the athletic strategic plan. Unless Ms. Strasser needs any setup time. It's doing something.
Well, good evening, everyone. All right, we good? All right, well, good evening, everyone. As many of you know, this has been quite a process to get where we are tonight. Katie Rucka, our athletic director at West Al Central, is joining. She's been a part of the process, and I'll explain a little bit in what ways as we go. The how and the why. Why? This has stemmed from years. I kind of look back, my notes started in probably 22-23 school year. Concerns of declining participation from both our students and parent engagement. Just kind of where are we at competitive wise, things like that. So we made the decision as a recreation and community services committee and as a board to move forward with the district athletic strategic plan. So I'd like to take you tonight through the process we used and how we got to the plan that we're at. So when tasked with creating an athletic strategic plan, first, we kind of wondered, could we take this on ourselves? Did we need some outside help? So we actually did put out an RFP to consultants to see if we could get some help. The cost of it was just prohibitive. It was not something we as a district could commit to. But I'm proud to say, even without that, we got to a really good place. And I know Katie and Miss Lee can share later just the energy and excitement that is around this. So I took a phased approach in the process. First, to identify who are the stakeholders involved, and then invited them to sort of basically kind of a listening and sharing session. And at that, it was coaches, at both the high school and intermediate school level, our ADs at both levels, representatives from the Recreation Department, Youth Sports, and then also representatives from our junior programs, both Junior Huskies and our Junior Bulldogs, and a wide variety. Anybody who could come was invited to come. At that, and you sort of see those pictures at the top, broke everybody up sort of into groups, and some groups just sort of formed organically. But we talked about what are our strengths as a district when it comes to sports, because we have them. There's a lot to be proud of and a lot to celebrate. But what also are some of our weaknesses? You know, where are those areas that we're lacking? What opportunities exist for us? And then normally when you do a SWOT analysis, it would be the T's of the threats, but we focus more on barriers. So we made up our new analysis type, the SWAB. Someone's going to take it. I should probably trademark it, but really, because we talked about what are our kids and our families facing that's preventing them from participating? What are those things? And there's been a lot of conversation, but we really wanted to dive into identifying and getting some facts. So from there, there was a lot of common themes, and you'll see in a future slide how we got there. But we developed committees, right? This was a large project and no one group could tackle all of it. So from the themes that emerged, connectivity, engagement, and facilities, we formed different committees. And there too, people were invited in, even people that didn't initially attend this first listening session could get on board on a committee and did. It was really our committee chairs took the lead and helped recruit people to be on those committees. From there then, we created a plan and it was vetted out many times through our athletics core team and then also our school board team. And we've drafted a plan that we'll share tonight. And then the next steps will be obviously to launch that plan. So we initially started this back in January of 2024 with that kickoff meeting. From there, it took some time for those committees to meet. Some of them met in person, some of them met virtually, some of them needed only meet monthly, some every other week. It just really was up to the committee and that committee chair to sort of set the cadence for those. But then our core team for sure met monthly and even sometimes bi-weekly to just check in and see where everybody was at. Then November of this past fall to February, we reviewed and revised it with that core team and with our board committee. Then we presented it on March 12th to, again, those stakeholders that were involved the first time. Some came back, some were some new faces that wanted to learn, see what this was all about. And that's where I'll say, Katie and I were kind of just talking. I left like, I felt like I should be the pep squad, the cheer squad, like really energized and excited about the work and just the attitudes and the mindset of everybody that was there that's ready to do the work. And I will say a lot of them are our coaches. So that was really inspiring to see. So here was the process. This was it. We went through and they went around and just Post-it noted different groups. What are those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and what are those barriers? I also throughout this process shared there's not a lot of school districts or high schools out there that have a strategic plan dedicated solely to athletics. The ones I found in the state of Wisconsin, Oregon School District outside of Madison area had sort of one. Started a lot of the work before COVID. Then the pandemic came and things sort of, I don't want to say fell apart, but the thing that I learned from them is it became really dependent on the people involved. And that's not what I wanted for our plan. I wanted our plan to be whomever is here, doesn't matter in what role. If they pick this up, they know what the work is to be done or what's been done. And then the other one was the Oconomowoc School District that we just sort of used as resources. Our core team, our engagement committee was led by Stephanie Emmons. Very active, former board member, but also very active in Booster Club, connections with the youth programs and at the high school level. She volunteered, took the lead on the engagement committee. Patrick Schloss, very active with Nathan Hale. Gridiron Club took the lead on the facilities. And then we actually had two people that chaired the connectivity committee. One was Taylor Ehrman, but due to just professional responsibilities, had to step away. And then Bobby, who's in our department, our intermediate school athletic director, and youth sports took the lead on that. But when I talk about the core team, it was myself, our two ADs, Greg and Katie, Bobby, and then our committee chairs. Here's just a list of the committee members. And I put this in here so you can see it's a wide variety of coaches, parents, some parents that still have kids involved in the program, either youth level, high school level, some that no longer do. Both Hale and Central represented, which was great, and we wanted to see. So through all that, we developed, starting with a vision. And our vision as part of the strategic plan is to be the preferred choice for athletics for our kids that live here and are attending our schools, and for anybody who's thinking, where might we want to move to? Where do we want to send our kids to? We want to be the choice. We don't want to hear or see or know that our families are leaving to go elsewhere, other schools, for the sole purpose of athletics. And our mission, we want to create a culture, and I think that's really important. We want to see culture at both our high schools that transcends down all the way to our rec sports, that builds and cultivates character, community, pride, and a competitive mindset. So we still have some work to do, kind of those who, what, when, where's, why, and how, but we focused on what is the strategy and work that needs to happen within each goal, the timeline and urgency. So you'll see on a later slide, like there's things that are already being done, things that we will be doing, things that'll be down the road. The who, this is key to the success. And that's why when I shared the excitement, right, a lot of the things are going to come down to work on our coaches and our athletic director's part, and they're in it. They are ready, and they want to work together. One thing that came out of our last session we had with all the stakeholders was it's no longer about Hale and Central. It is about West Dallas, West Milwaukee athletics, except the one day a year when we play each other in whatever sport that might be. But we need to cheer, support, encourage everybody. Again, except on that one day we play each other, then we can wear our school colors and root for our home team. And then the last is, how are we going to do this? So here's the plan. I'm just going to pull up the link here. This is what was shared with all of you. I'm not going to go through this line by line, but I just want to hit the highlights. The first one is under engagement. What does that actually mean? And that committee defined it as simplifying and streamlining processes that attract and retain coaches, athletes, families, and the community at large. So the first goal is going to focus on recruiting and retaining student athletes and coaches. And there we already have a lot of work being done on the coach part, looking at salaries and what is our salary structure and what can we do, even though there's a baseline, what can we do to recognize and honor coaches maybe that have been with us for a while? And then not only those that have been with us for a while, also looking at and thinking about what other ways can we recognize, whether it's students that get all conference honors, any accolades, regional, sectionals, things like that. The other piece, which I think we got an applause, was the professional development piece. And that's, we're back to years ago, if you were a district educator or worked in a building and you wanted to go to PD on a school day, you were provided a sub. Well, a lot of things have happened and shortages, and that wasn't being afforded, that opportunity. And working with Aaron and Alyssa, we're back to any coaches that are district educators. If there's any type of coaching PD on a school day, we'll work to get them a sub so they can go. Their next goal is focused on increasing parent and guardian engagement and involvement. And then increasing and maintaining broader community interest, participation, and support. Under our connectivity committee, creating connection, they defined it as creating connections across all levels of athletics district-wide to build one unified front. So we want to further the connection between recreation, intermediate school, junior, feeder programs, and high school sports. Part of that, and Mr. Becker has been a huge advocate and strong supporter of us updating our one pager. What does that look like? You know, for a parent, if you're here and you maybe have kids in multiple grades or whatever, like, what's available to me? I'm brand new here, just moved here. I don't know. At orientations, whether it's sixth grade or freshman orientation, getting information into kids' parents' hands of what do we have? The other thing is talking about when our kids get to high school, what is it our high school coaches want them, need them to know or be able to do, right? If I'm going out for basketball as a freshman, I think our coaches would appreciate if I knew how to dribble, right? If I knew the difference between offense and defense. And sometimes if kids are brand new, have never played the sport a day, and you know, we're struggling there. So that's become a challenge. So just even creating, and then also furthering the connection. So we'll use the feeder programs. Those coaches are running, whether it's offensive, defenses, whatever, they're getting our kids ready for high school, whether it's the intermediate school level. If I'm a 7th, 8th grade coach, when the kids leave Frank Lloyd Wright or West Milwaukee and go to our high schools, what should they be able to do or know? And we talk about not just the skills in the sport, but some just general athleticism and cardio and strength training and having the endurance to last a full game, or having some sport IQ and knowledge, right? Not knowing, you know, just kind of the ins and outs in the sport. So working on that together collaboratively, and that's already starting. Bobby's working with our intermediate school coaches and connecting them with our high school coaches, and even getting them involved in sometimes the hiring, who we're hiring at the intermediate school levels, and or if a parent is struggling at the rec level, connecting them with those resources that some of our high school coaches have. Their second goal is increased parent involvement, and you can probably see some common themes and overlaps here. But this committee really is focused on understanding the why. So there will be eventually some reaching out to parents. What is it? Why is it? Also talking about, when we talk culture, it's not just culture with kids, it's culture with parents, creating a space where all parents feel that they belong, where all parents feel that they're welcome, right? If I'm signed up for concessions and I walk in the concession stand, somebody's welcoming me or showing me what to do or how to do it. I've never maybe ran the nacho cheese machine. I don't know, right? Like, how do you do that? And then their last goal was to create and establish a connection again between all the levels. And we've already started some of that. We are on the docket, the high schools and our youth programs at some high interest days getting involved. But we got one tomorrow already. All right. I know our junior Bulldogs football program and Bobby together, and Mr. Lee to speak to the flag football. That's in process and in the works. Both Central and Hale have interest surveys out to the students, seeing who's interested, and, you know, yes, I'm all on board, or maybe I need a little more information, and how we can get them some more information.
It's also been brought to the Woodland Conference. Central is in the Woodland Conference, Hale's in the GMC, but it was brought to the Woodland Conference as this is something that West Isle Central is pursuing. The only other school in our conference is Greenfield that has a team. But collectively as a conference between all 16 teams, the commissioner was like, we should get ahead of this. We see the trajectory that this is going on. Like, we back this, and we should probably all follow suit. So there's a lot of momentum here for that.
And there too, we're looking to do that eventually K through 12. Right now, I think Bobby's working on 3rd. And even if it's just starting with clinics, Come try it, come learn it, come see what it's all about. And then the facilities team defined their goal as ensuring facilities provide safe and optimal opportunities for athletes to grow, improve, and succeed. Their first goal is to consider and explore hiring, contracting a district grant writer to help secure funding to support ongoing facility upgrades and improvements. But as you've seen, we're not going to let that stop us if we don't. I think that was evidenced with getting the Pat Connaughton Foundation grant. And I know our staff and others were working to find what grants are out there, what can we collaborate on, what can we keep applying for. Create a prioritized facility scheduling plan that is equitable and inclusive for all sports and all levels. And kind of what that refers to, sometimes we might see off-season open gyms getting priority over facilities versus in-season practices or optimized times, or ensuring that all of our teams have access to our cardio and weight rooms and that there's times and space for them. And then what is the kind of the timeline for scheduling spaces and who has what priority first. And then lastly, build and nurture an athletics tourism partnership that is mutually beneficial. We feel like we still got to do a little exploration there and what that might look like, but definitely potentially opportunities for generating revenue that might help our athletics programs overall. So what's next? What are we doing now? Right now, I know many of you are aware the district will be transitioning to a new platform for the website. We're already working on that, and we will have on the district's main page a tab that says athletics. So right there, you click that, and then it'll give you kind of what the option of menus are. Do you want high school sports? Do you want intermediate school? Do you want youth? Do you want a junior? It'll all be right there. And of course, it's going to probably maybe take you a couple clicks or links, but athletics will be on our main page, so people don't have to dig and dive for it. We're updating that one pager and we'll be distributing and sharing that. Now is a great time as we have a lot of different, and then throughout the summer, orientations, in the summer, different events, getting that information out there. And then we're really working that kind of core team to formalize and document systems in our internal processes. So how do we do this? What is the process for that? What is the plan for that? And a lot of that is around coach evaluation. And just starting, I guess, from the beginning, coach job description. Then the evaluation aligned with the job description. What are the expectations for our coaches? And getting that to them up front. I mean, that's one thing our coaches shared is sometimes they feel like, I don't even know what the expectation is. And or the coaches have asked for, can we formalize and have a process for? So if I play sport A and that coach says, you miss practice, you don't play, but I play sport B and that coach says, you don't have to worry about it. Not at practice, no big deal. Like that, there's some consistency within each building. What's next? Creating work groups for each of these individual action steps. There's a lot of work to be done, but based on what's prioritized, getting them groups together and giving the coaches and some of our other stakeholders a voice in moving forward. Our ADs creating and establishing site-specific cultures aligned with the plan. And we had a lot of conversation about what Central needs, what Central wants, what works at Central might not look the same at Nathan Hale. Nathan Hale, this might be their culture, whether it's, mindset. And over here at Central, this is theirs when it comes to athletics. But each individual AD working with their coaches to build that, and then also getting everybody on board, right? We have to have buy-in or any of this, all of this is going to fall flat. Collaboration on that, referenced it earlier, what our athletes need to know or be able to do per sport, and then reviewing our registration processes and systems. This actually came up out of PTA council meeting, I'll quite honestly say. So we don't have the same processes for students to register for athletics, right? It looks different if I'm doing a rec sport. It looks different if I'm doing an intermediate school sport. It looks different if I'm doing a high school sport, but yet all the information, once an eighth grader leaves, their physical, their alternate year card somehow has to get to the high schools. Right now it's a lot of paper. And even there, like, we just have different systems for how you pay and how then I submit my physical and all my concussion form, my cardiac arrest. So looking and reviewing that and finding, is there a way to streamline that and parents can do all of it in one spot and then do it, right? If I learn it as a kindergarten parent, by the time I get to high school, I'm just click, 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 good to go, I'm done. Later, kind of down the road, is a survey to parents investigating that why. What are some of the barriers? Why are, whether they're not engaged or getting actively involved or encouraging their kids, what is the reason why? Instead of us speculating, we want some data. We want to know. We want some direction from those parents. And then further exploring grants, and that grant writer process will come later on. And then lastly, is if we don't hold ourselves accountable and continue to check on it, where are we at? Again, this is going to kind of fall to the wayside, I think. So we have plans at our monthly athletic teams meeting. Myself, Bobby, the ADs, we meet monthly. This will be a standing item and probably the very first thing. Let's review it. Where are we at? And have those check-ins. And then also at the board committee meetings, I know they're going to hold me and everybody accountable. Where are we at? What are we doing? And then those will become part of ongoing board updates. This is where we're at. This is what we're doing. This is what we've done. Sort of that, dashboard to check in. I'll just say at the end of the day, it all comes down to those that you see there, doing what's in the best interest of our kids, giving our kids opportunities, making sure those opportunities are positive, and creating that lifelong love of sport. Because we all, I think, know once kids leave, some of our kids might go on and play at a collegiate level, but probably the majority of them aren't going to. When it comes to the world of sports, we need officials, we need broadcasters, we need writers, but you need to know the sport. You may not necessarily need to be able to do it, but that also comes back to that sport IQ. If I'm an analyst, I'm any of those, I got to know the game. And that's what we want to also do, is provide those opportunities for our kids and connecting all kids, right? So whether I might not be part of a team, but I might be the announcer at the game, or I'm running media, or I'm doing the social media, because kids are far better than me at that, getting them involved in those kind of ways too. That's all part of where we're looking to go with this.
I think too, just in general, what you can learn, the skills you can learn as being like a lifelong athlete, I think are, steps to creating a well-rounded student. So I feel like that, is really positive in a lot of different ways, even if they seem to be intangible or career-based. I think there's just a lot to learn. So something to be proud of.
I don't know, Rebecca and Joe, if you have any things to add, or, Rebecca, you were at both the stakeholder meetings, the very first one back January 2024, and then this last one.
I really liked, I at first was a little, not hesitant, but I was very curious as to what the conversations were going to be when we put the swab up there, the strengths and weaknesses and stuff, because it always seems easier to pick out the negatives or what's bad. But what was nice is in those meetings, there was a lot of, good being shared and ideas of how the things that aren't so great and what we can do to make that better and stuff. So it really was eye-opening to see that, there is a lot of people that care. And I think sometimes to the community, they might not feel that way, but there is. And there was a lot of people in that room on both occasions that they want the best for our kids, for, both sides of town, to be able to, put out some good, great programs that people want to come to. So yeah, I was just very pleased at the turnout and the conversations that were had and the possible solutions that were brought up. So I'm excited to see it go live.
You honestly got most, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish.
Oh, I was just gonna say like the one mention was on the one pager, and I think it's something that we try to do in my day job a lot is have a single slide that just describes what is the project, what are you doing. It's like an elevator pitch of sorts in writing, and I think it's super important. To people's time is already so in demand, and we're so attention deficit driven these days. I think being brief and to the point and being really succinct about what we want. I think Dr. Robinson's spoken a lot about the image and the perception of our district. So I think it's another way that we can really drive our own narrative and say, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. Yeah, I mean, everything else I think you guys hit in the presentation. Most everything I had planned to say, you already covered it.
All right.
So no, not at all. I mean, I feel like I've said it for the last year since this started. Like I'm trying to say the same things. It's building consistency, building systems, building a framework to maintain what we build rather than rebuilding it every year or rebuilding ad hoc systems all the time. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you guys covered it really well.
So when I think about a strategic plan, I have no doubt the progress monitoring will happen, and you'll say, like, how are we doing? Are we doing all the things that we said we were going to do? How are we increasing parent involvement and all of those things? What I'm missing is, in a strategic plan, usually you have a specific, like for our strategic plan, we might say, we want to increase attendance from 96.4 to 98. And so have you set any of that for yourselves, like parent engagement or any of those specifics? Like as your progress monitoring, how will you assess your success?
We haven't yet. And that's, I think, something we have to look at and kind of figure out, like, we don't want to set things that are unrealistic or, maybe too overarching or things like that. So part of that work will be within each of those different, so we have the goal, and then we have different strands of how we're going to get there. Those teams working together to determine, right, what might some of those benchmarks be. So, and the other challenges, it's going to look different on every single level. Whether it's, I know Katie's been working on her theory of action for athletics. And a lot of that is like foreign and new to Bobby on the intermediate school level. But there will be, right? Because we got to see all this work. What's the benefit? But I'm not real sure yet exactly how are we going to, like when it comes to parent engagement, might it be like if Booster Club, they need to be a part of it. Like, that's been like a lot of the conversation. It's the same parents, and we're burning parents out because not only am I in general Booster Club, I'm part of the Gridiron Club. And then I have a kid who plays baseball and I'm part of that club and this club. Like, what can we do to get more parents involved? And what that might look different at Central than at Hale. It might look different on the intermediate school level. I'll just say, we sometimes feel bad for our intermediate school kids because a lot of their games are like right after school and our parents just can't get there. So parent engagement on that level might look different. What does it look like on a rec level? Well, we rely pretty much solely 100% on parent volunteers, or volunteer coaches. So that's going to look a little bit different at each level.
If I could just comment real quick, I think you bring up a great point about what a traditional strategic plan will look like. And you're right, the goals are not written in SMART form. But I think it really is hard to do it at this particular point because what we're trying to do, honestly, is to create some consistency across the board and create sort of what I would say are district-wide expectations. Once we really get sort of a common thing going as far as, this school and this school, right now we have it's two different approaches with it. And so because they're kind of at different ends where one does one very well, one struggles with that, this one does not do well on this end, struggles with this. So it's just, we're trying to get everything to where there's some commonality across the board. That's the reason for this strategic plan, is really to get that going. And then once we get that going, I can easily see us start to set some goals that are consistent across the board. But right now, a goal at Central will be one thing. A goal at Hale, unfortunately, may be a different thing. So in some areas, some things is consistent, but a lot of things is different. But we have to do some more district-wide consistent practices, and that's what we're trying to develop right now.
I do think too, to answer your question maybe a little bit further, the district strategic plan kind of lent itself to then thinking about like Central, what we are doing as a school, but then working alongside Central's like academic theory of action that they have going on to try and figure out if we could kind of partner up if whatever Central's academic goal is, could be overall like their theory of action is to overall increase like engagement in school and increase overall attendance. So then Central's athletics theory of action has a similar goal. So then you're trying to use then athletics as the catalyst for how do we get more people involved and engaged in the hopes that more people would come to school and that you're going to get more engagement at school overall. So that was kind of how we were thinking of it, as like taking the big strategic plan and then narrowing it down to what is happening at Central, but knowing too that like the Central athletics strategic plan has like 15 tabs of all the different things that could then like we'll work. That's why we meet monthly, right? Like they're aligned together to make sure that we are like streamlined, but that's kind of the goal, the way that I saw it, which I'm hoping to like present or get more information and do something in May. So I could invite you guys, we'll see. But it's all, I think the work that Shelley has done on the district level has then sparked an interest in like, you know, like Joe was saying, how do we streamline these systems? How do we do this? But not just through the district level, but then at the schools, like what are we doing? So, yeah, bless you.
I was just gonna say too, like to Jane's point, you know, as far as like goal setting and things like that, it's there is, but it's hard because this is it's a constant, you know, it's an ever-changing kind of document. You know, it's not just so black and white because there are so many variables, but like we're trying to, the overreaching part as far as like, okay, we want the fluidity amongst, you know, elementary, then into the middle school sports, whether it be rec or school sports, and then again, the intermediate to the high school sports. And just to kind of simplify, like from a parent's perspective, you know, to be able to go like to like the one pager, like Joe said, you know, and know that there's all these things open. It's not just what's in school, it's recreationally too, if you're not sure what your kids want to do, and just making it the flow a lot better. You know, it just seemed like there was so many avenues, and if you didn't dig, you couldn't find them and stuff. And so I think the goals that we're going to achieve, we might not even realize yet until we just start using this, and then we'll see the numbers get better and things like that, because it'll be easier for parents and athletes to find and participate in. So
I just wanted to add something about like reaching everybody, like from like youth and like rec stuff all the way up until high school. Something I can say from my perspective as a student at Dotkey is I feel like a lot of times Dotkey students kind of forget that we are also able to participate in athletics. We're not big enough to have our own athletic team since we're such a small school, but students can participate at Central and Hale depending on like what their home school would be. And now that all of our incoming freshman classes, we're trying to get everybody up to 50 so we can increase our student population at Dotkey. I think as we work on doing that, it would be really important to get the word out also to Dotkey students so they know that they can participate in athletics as well, because I feel like a lot of students will forget that and then they will seek avenues outside of the district to get athletics. So if we really want to keep it in the district and kind of drive home that like WAWM is like the place that we want all of our students to be participating in athletics, I think that finding a way to get the word out to Dotkey in a lot better of a way can also help with some of that.
Some sort of liaison that would be responsible for ensuring that information is being communicated to Dotkey as well. If there's no administration or anyone else that is doing that currently, and whether that be Greg or someone he designates, or is it someone from Central or Hale that is going to be responsible for that, but just ensuring that the information maybe goes to a central person at Dotkey, then responsible disseminating it to all our Dotkey students as well when there's tryouts for things, when there's, all the things like that that's happening so that they know when it's occurring. And if they have interest in doing that, being able to do that. So thank you for bringing that up, Shay.
Yeah, and I think too, that goes to speak to the culture, right? So if I am a student at Docky and I go to Hale or I go to Central, I'm gonna feel welcomed. I am gonna feel a part. It's not gonna be like, oh, you're from here, you're from there. No, like, you're part of our team. We're the team. Yeah, so we want to create that culture as well. Like kids, everybody feels welcome, feels a part. So thank you.
So I just had a few things. I think that this is a really great start, and there's obviously a lot to do between what we've heard here today and like having actual a finished product or something that's in play across the district. There's just a few things that I wanted to mention about talking about skills. So I think there's a difference between learning skills for a sport and learning specific plays for a sport. And I think that sometimes, or at least in the past, there's been a focus from high school coaches that the middle school or junior clubs are doing exactly the same things that they're doing, so that when they come in, they know the play already. The problem with that is coaches change, and people at the high school level have a very different body type than people not in high school. And so I think it's a detriment to our youth sports when we're trying to force it from that level. I think from a skill perspective, yes, they should know certain skills, that is, no matter what play you're running, this is how it works, but not, you need to only run these plays, like this offense or defense or whatever it is. I think that should be stripped out. I think it needs to be allowed for the coaches that are running those programs to do what's best for the kids that are in those programs. Because if you're a good coach, I think you're usually applying you look at what you have and say, okay, this is what's going to work for our team. Not, well, I always run this no matter what, if you're doing something where you got to shoot 3-pointers all the time, but you got nobody who can shoot threes on your team, you're probably going to do something else, right? So I think that at the end of the day, that's another thing that I've come across, and it turns coaches off. And I think coaches is a really important skill. And it's when you have good coaches, you're going to have the experience of athletes will be better. Win or lose, it'll be better. And so I think that allowing the coaches to be able to do what they feel is best for the team that they have is the number one thing that we should be encouraging from top down when we do this. It can't be limited to only what might you eventually get to up here. Maybe you never get that far, or maybe by the time you get up there, it's a different person. And so then all the stuff that you were learning is moot. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. So I think that's one thing I want to make sure to focus on. It's the skills pieces, athleticism pieces, but not, I got to run this offense or I got to run this defense. Okay. That's number one. Coaching evaluation, I think, is something that's been sorely missing. I know it's not common, but I think when you're talking about salary and things like that, when you talk about, well, who's a good coach, who's a not good coach, right? Who's successful, who's not successful. Wins and losses doesn't tell the whole story. I'll be the first one up here to say that. Just because you lost every game doesn't mean you're not a good coach. And so I think that comes down to the culture that is put into the programs that each of our coaches put in. Because the kids are going to be more apt and want to fight for those coaches when they have the culture to say, I respect that coach. I know the coach is there for me as a student or me as a person, not just ensuring I get the best, or if I did something wrong, you're dead to me, So that's the thing that I think is really important too, when the coaching evaluation comes in, and that comes from setting up your expectations, which we talked about, the job description, having a pre-season meeting where you're saying, here's what I would like, as an AD, these are things I'd like to see this season. Here's the goals you had from last year. Here's the goals from this year, right? If you have coaches that are going from year to year. Brand new coach, here's the things I think that we should work on as a team for that sport, because based on what we had last year, this is where I think we should build from. And then having a postseason meeting that says, okay, how did we do? Again, not wins and losses, but how do we do on those goals that we set at the beginning of the season to ensure that we're moving forward with that? So I really think I'd like to see that as part of that coaching evaluation piece, along with feedback from parents of those programs and athletes from those programs. And so that was something, I know it was done at Hale. I don't know if it was done at Central. This year, there was surveys that were sent out after the season was done, asking, it was like 5 questions or something like that, of what their opinion of the program was. And it wasn't just about coaching, but it was other things too. And so I think that could be a useful piece to help with the coaching evaluation. As a coach, I think I would love to get that information back to see, like, what is the perception that parents are getting, or that my kids are getting, that I'm coaching as far as what I'm doing. And then that might help direct me and things I can work on as a coach to ensure that I'm being more effective. And so I would love to see that, as you're talking about district-wide processes put in place, that this just becomes the norm. Your kid's in a sport, I know that I'm getting a survey at the end of the year, and that you're telling your kid, hey, you're gonna get a survey. Make sure you fill out, like, if stuff comes up, you can provide that feedback. So I think that would be a great tool that I don't think we utilize very much at all. I think instead of Hale this year, there was some of it. I don't know if it was, I didn't get one for winter sports. I did get one for fall sports. So it'd be great to see that standardized and then provided in a manner that it can be given, especially from a student perspective, anonymously. Because there is the concern of lost playing time or perception of lost playing time because of being honest or being straightforward with the feedback that they're giving. So whether that's a paper form that you can fill out and put in the office or whatever, for students and parents, they should be able to fill out the form and deal with it as adults. But as kids, I can see that being a barrier to that potentially, because they don't want to ruin a relationship they might think that they have or get on someone's bad side because they provided maybe some what they consider negative feedback for a coach. So those, I think, for me, are the two biggest perspectives. Like, I would love, if I was to say, I would like, what are things we want to get pushed forward? The communication piece, but being able to evaluate your coaches, being able to get that feedback from staff and from parents and from students that are participating in these programs, I think would really help in understanding, having a better understanding, because I have heard very different stories about different programs depending who you spoke to. And so I think that's telling. It's telling, but I don't think it's very helpful and useful in ensuring that we have a product here, a program here in our district that is providing a place for student athletes to grow and learn as people. Because you're right, most are not going to go on to even play in college, but you do learn a lot being on a team that you can apply to many, many other things. So I don't want to discourage that from people because of the bad experience that they have.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
You talk about like streamlining, so it's kind of like transparent, like the coach evaluation forms, surveys, things like that. Is that something that you feel like would be valuable, like how presented to the community, I guess? Because I feel like some of those things can be presented to central staff, but I don't know.
So I
You
don't,
know what I mean? Like, is it presented on like a website? Is it kind of like common knowledge? Is it part of a vision? Is it?
Well, I just say, I think with a survey, like we have to be careful who we're sharing it with, right? Like, I mean, a survey should go directly to, and we have the,
For sure.
the resources, right? Directly to the student athletes, directly to parents of those athletes. The one thing I was really surprised, and I guess too, I was impressed by the coaches that attended our last stakeholder meeting. They want to be evaluated. They said, I want to, I want the feedback. I don't know what I don't know. And I want to hear from different people. I want to have an opportunity to set goals and then try and reach them, right? Because ultimately they know it's going to benefit the students and their student athletes. So they're asking for it. They want it, which you don't always see, right? They're like, oh yeah, well, parents are just going to, there wasn't that mentality or that mindset at all, which I think too is going to speak to the culture that we're starting to create, that surveys are not meant to be a punitive, meant to be right. So I think, again, when we look at, there's some art in survey writing, right? And I kind of always coach my staff, like, don't ask questions about things you can't control. Like, right, if they're doing a rec survey and we know we'll just use that, we can only use this building for indoor soccer. Like, it just can't go anywhere else. We shouldn't ask a question like, what do you think about the location? What do you think about like people? Because they're not, we can't change it, but right, getting down to things are, what are, what are things that'll be useful feedback for coach that again are aligned with the job description, their expectations, and that's their part of it. They need to be part of writing that evaluation and knowing and having a voice and saying like, if I'm going to get better, these are the things, right? Even if it includes professional development, are they willing? Did they, didn't they? Were they at the preseason coaches meeting? Did they attend their postseason follow-up with the AD? All of those pieces, right? How were they with parents? And all the things that go along with creating a culture, team dinners, spirit wear, there's so many facets to athletics, right?
And I didn't want to, I'm not trying to imply that coaches don't want that.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I think that there's just nothing, when there's nothing, and it's like, well, how do you actually gauge what's going well and what's not going well. How do you gauge that if there's nothing to measure it to? You never set any goals, you never set like expectations. And so how can you get there? So I think by doing that and then having the surveys that go out afterwards to ask, okay, did the coach respond when you sent a message about XYZ thing as a parent? Or, how do you think the coach was? Were they supportive or were they not supportive as an athlete? And so that's the thing that that I'm really kind of focusing on. And when I meant transparency, I didn't mean like so everyone can see the results. The results should come back to the AD, I think, and the ADs that are responsible for parsing those things and putting in some sort of a summary that then they can present to the coach and say, here's what we got back from the parents, here's what we got back from the students. And then that information can be used as part of the evaluation process between the AD and the coach to say, okay, here's where we can build, here's our opportunities, where you did a fantastic job, keep up the good work. That's what I'm talking about. But without that, how do you do it, right? Because again, wins and losses is not telling anything really about how great that coach is. It's more maybe about the talents of the athletes on the field, less about how good they are at coaching them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest piece about that is, I think we have a lot of talented students in our district, but there's a lot of them who don't go out for athletics. For maybe nothing to do with the coaching, but they just don't. And so I think that by having this piece, it helps with the buy-in from the coaching staff because they know where the bar is, right? They know what they're trying to get to, and then they know when they're not meeting it as far as, things that they were supposed to do and they didn't, or if the parents are asking, man, I emailed the coach 10 times, they never responded. I don't know what's going on. So I think that's at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at when it comes to that piece.
No, I was just gonna say, just when you had mentioned for what the students or the athletes are expected of them or not, part of what was discussed, I know in our group was asking the coaches as part of their homework, so to speak, is to come up with what do they want to see, like the high school coaches from the athletes coming, incoming from the intermediate schools. When it comes to basketball, what are like the basic fundamentals or whatever that you'd like them to come with so that then the coaches and the AD at the intermediate level know what they need to focus on, because I know a lot of my kids' friends, having two of them in high school, some have never thought about going out for certain sports because they don't feel like they've had any of those basics or anything like that. So they just kind of feel like, well, I'm not just going to jump in if I don't know anything. So we had said that if coaches could kind of write up a plan of, here's what, not that they have to, but here's what we'd like them to know. And that way the intermediate school ADs and coaches can kind of incorporate that. And then even down to the rec level, that way, if, for those that are helping out with rec, whether it be a parent, volunteer or what, but just to kind of know those basics that you want to make sure you get out to those kids in those sports. So if they do decide to pursue it, they don't feel like they're just kind of flailing or they just don't try out at all. So.
And then a last piece that kind of speaks to Jane's inquiry about data. We're not necessarily using it as part of the strategic plan, but we are using and collecting data and have asked a lot more of our athletic directors to help us tell the story. So now we have what we've kind of referred to as our internal athletics dashboard, where they have to report, number of kids that started the season, number of students that ended the season, how many students received, this accolade or that accolade. Again, not necessarily wins and losses, but we've seen as been evidenced at our board meetings, the things that our student athletes are accomplishing, whether it's milestones or those recognitions or state qualifying, all of those things. And how do we as a district tell our story? And our comms department's been a huge partner in that. So now we, I know they're probably this time of year going to start working on the annual report. We have this data dashboard. So when we get to that, we can refer back to it and say, oh yeah, in the fall, those fall sports, fall sports, here's how many awards our student athletes have collected. Here's how many kids we had participate, all those things. So we can share when it comes to that community-wide piece, right? They may not be going to a Hale or Central game, but your annual report, and this is the story it tells, and they see all the good happening.
Mr. Becker.
I was thinking of a couple of things. You mentioned the eval, and I think that's something that we talk about how this plan isn't really fully formed yet, but I think what it does is it gives us a framework at least to begin to assess, and there should be an annual evaluation, not just of each coach, but the programs themselves and how it's operating from the top. I think when we talk about things like the skills and the knowledge for our athletes, we talk very constantly about our guaranteed viable curriculum for math, for English, for everything. So why should athletics be any different? It's not necessarily running the same offense from 12th through 5th grade, but just understanding like you need to appreciate these pieces of the game. This is what the sport is. And it's just, I think there's some pieces about common language and just, you can't come in and the coach just get on the baseline and everybody's looking around and they don't know where to go. Like that's how you have lousy practices.
If not, thank you. As I know it's been a long time coming. We're all excited to see it and we're all looking forward to progress as it comes. So I appreciate you coming to present us here tonight.
Thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Just have to plug really fast that Hale versus Central girls soccer is Friday and
Oh.
Hale versus Central baseball is May 9th. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Battle of the dogs.
Okay, so that was the last piece we have. I look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We adjourned. Thank you much, everyone.